Ready or not, summer is coming, and Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance is on now. Right now through May 25th, get up to 70% off everything home at Wayfair. Plus, score amazing doorbuster deals all sale long and surprise flash deals on Memorial Day. We're talking thousands of products at every style and budget. Now is the time to save big on must-haves for your patio, backyard, and beyond. These savings won't last, so don't wait. Shop Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance now through May 25th.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.
DJ PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We're live on YouTube and KSLSports.com and who knows where else. A million places. Chris Hill is in studio, the former Utah athletic director. You've got a book out. Give people the website again.
It's chrishillstories.com.
All right. There's a lot of Majerus stories in there. It's about 31 years. You had the seat in the front row, just experiences, things that happened.
Right.
There's crazy stories with Majerus. We could be here till noon and not even scratch the surface.
Right.
He also won big.
Oh, bigger than we think.
Great coach, man.
Yeah.
He had, I read, when the NCAA was going on now, talking about how many games Utah State and BYU, how many Sweet 16s. Rick won 17 games. Now, go around and take the whole state, add them up, take New Mexico, and add them up and see if there were 17.
Right.
My God, we just took it for granted.
So it was such a struggle after he left, and there were people who had really different theories coming in, right? Ray Giacoletti wanted to bring in foreign players. Boylan wanted to bring in Midwest players. No one wanted to use Majerus' recipe, which always stunned me because Ronnie Mack had a recipe. It was kind of Lavelle's, and then he put his own spin on it. And Gary Anderson took it to Utah State, and it worked. And Jay Hill took it to Weber State, and it worked. And there's more examples.
Yeah.
There's finally a coach at the U who's got the Majerus DNA, but times have changed, and money is such a big part of it now.
Wow.
I mean, it's at least 90, if not 95% of it. And with some kids, it's 100.
Yeah.
Probably not with the whole program. So what kind of success do you expect Alex to have? Is he going to have the money to be the best coach with the most success that he can have? What do you think?
Well, yeah, I think what's so different is the money. I think Alex can identify talent, and he knows how to coach them up. There's no question. I mean, Rick didn't bring him to St. Louis because he didn't know what he's doing, and we used to call him St. Alex because Rick loved him so much. But he can get players, I think, if he has enough money, and he has enough money to keep them. But as we were talking, kids really kind of don't care what school they go to. They don't have loyalty. I love, East Jabibby State again, my favorite school. But if they do well, boom, they're bought.
Yeah.
Damon Lillard would have never been at Weber State more than a week, because somebody would have bought him. So do they have enough money? It may not be that simple, and he's got to get him to win. But I'm convinced he can coach him up if he has enough to essentially buy players. But I think he can coach them up, and he'll be great in the community, and he'll do better getting Utah kids, even if it's maybe a discount. He'll get those kids.
Whereas before, in Majerus' era, there was no choice for Utah kids, which is often the LDS kid. Obviously, if they wanted to play on a winning team that could go far, well, there's only one choice.
Yeah.
And so he was able to clean up.
Right.
Even if kids didn't want to go, they had to go.
Yeah.
And now with them spending money down there, it's a big difference.
Well, I don't want to underplay the Utah recruiting because every coach says we recruit Utah first. That's what we do. Let's see, Hano, Finland, Horn, California,
but the ones
Andre,
he got
California,
were extremely
Dolian. Let me
important.
keep going. Doliak, Oregon. You look at it, he had great players. But then he got a Britton Johnson. He got an Alex Jensen. So he kind of did them both. Yeah. He was able to combat both. I mean, the foreign thing is bigger now because there's just better players there, and people have seen the success at Gonzaga and et cetera, et cetera. Larry's here. I think he was on the cusp of doing that. But Alex knows Europe. He knows everywhere. And I text him one day, and he says, I'll give you a holler, but I'm in the middle of all this stuff, players here, players there.
Yeah.
And it's tough. It's really tough now to recruit and keep them. That's the thing. I mean, I go back to Andre Miller. We wouldn't have kept him. Kentucky would have had him. They would have come in and said, "Hey, Andre, you want to come here?" And good old Andre, God bless him, he would have been gone. I think
his mother would have made him.
Yeah. I think so. His mom, well, he'd do whatever his mom said.
Right.
Yeah. And honestly, to your point, the amount of money they would have thrown at him would have been staggering.
Oh, yeah.
It would have been staggering. You would have been really disappointed, but you couldn't have been mad at him.
No, it's
knowing
like,
how the system works.
It's exactly like when we were one of the great things that happened that we still don't know now is Andre came in to see us after the Final Four. Mm-hmm. We had Russ Granick on a speakerphone. And
who was an NBA
he was
league
the
office executive.
Lead office guy.
Right.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I left out a paragraph. I sometimes do that. But so you got me, Donnie, Manny Hendricks, and Andre listening. And the guy says, Granick said, well, you'll be probably about, 11 to 24, And we get done, and Andre Lee is, we're all going, great for Andre. Great for Andre. Then he decides to stay, and he still had his degree already. And I'm thinking, why? We still to this day don't know. We have our theories, why he'd say. But, he was real low to us, but that would have changed it real early after his freshman year and beyond that, because he didn't have the loyalty there, because he wasn't, But loyalty's overrated now. It just doesn't happen.
As we see on a regular basis.
Yes, we know that. I mean, we're all loyal to our job, I think.
To a degree.
Yeah, to a degree, but it changes,
right.
I mean.
We saw back when Lavelle retired, Val Hale hitched his wagon to Gary Croton, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
And then they both lose their jobs.
Yeah.
And it was a messy situation. Utah was a messy
I didn't know that. Yeah, go ahead.
The messy situation. I mean, the family was upset about Whittingham.
About
family.
Whittingham.
Okay.
And
you left a paragraph out too. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, the family. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
And so.
And they've made no secret of it.
Yeah.
You can hear that from other people in town.
They tell me stuff. Blah,
right.
blah, blah.
Well, they didn't sign. What's it called? A non-disclosure. They didn't.
Right.
NDA.
His family didn't sign an NDA.
No. I mean,
I think from what I've heard,
they did not during the Vegas Bowl.
Yeah.
Actually, the game is being played, and I'm getting it in the press room.
Oh, really?
On the phone. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well,
because some of them are there.
Yeah, you knew the family.
Right.
Yeah.
And so be it, right? So where I'm going with this is now the administration has hitched this wagon with Morgan, and hopefully it doesn't end up like Croton, which ended up being a disaster. This coach and waiting stuff, I just don't know that it works all that well, because they wait, and it can be a messy departure, or the guy who gets the job then isn't as good as the predecessor and all that. Just what do you make of all this, and how much it has to succeed for everybody to basically stay employed?
Well, every situation is different, and to stay employed, it's pretty simple. If that's what you're getting, they got to win. That's the bottom line. Morgan's got to win. He knows he's got to win. That's the way the world is now. I mean, you get down to the bottom line, and you got to win. And Morgan he's a defensive coordinator, a pretty good national team. The problem is, if you're asking about coach and waiting, and the last guy I've drawn that line, I'm not going to say anything that seems critical of the university. I don't want to be that guy. I mean, I left, and I never go back to the building. Not because I'm anything other than I don't want to be in the way. But I don't know what you do if Kyle lost like crazy last year. Then you're going to elevate, him. But Morgan was the guy. I just don't know if it needed to be that public. But
right, and then and obviously the coach has to win. But sometimes the administrator won't lose his job. But here it seems like these guys now, they're joined at the hip. It has to work.
Jim Valvano told me, once the AD hires you, that's the most power you ever had, but you better get the power and do it before you lose a ball game. So I think they're inextricable. When I let Ronnie go and hired Urban, those are two completely different situations. But I was married to Urban, because if Urban didn't win, that meant I made a mistake with Ronnie. Right.
Yeah, there you go.
But he won so much, he got me off the hook.
Right.
So if you're saying that people are connected, I would say yes, always. It may be more this time than it would have been another time, And so every AD needs to have their football coach win when they hire a new guy.
Right. But you had some credibility with the basketball because you'd hired one that went to the Final Four, and then the next two you hired, it didn't work.
Yeah. So I had some credibility with that, and that helped me, I guess, along. I don't know what to say. I always felt like, hey, this new guy gotta win. I didn't hire him thinking, well, if he loses, I'll still keep my job.
Right. Oh, understood.
That's not even part of my thinking anyway. I never, I went for an interview one time in Miami, and they said, what are your goals? And I was just a kid, and I said, have a heck of a Monday, a heck of a Tuesday, a heck of a Wednesday, and it all add up. That's all I care about. Because I think if you start looking about, hey, I'm going to get fired, if this happens, that happens, then you can't do your job.
Yeah.
So they're all connected, some maybe more than others because of the nature, and that may be the case here or not. I'm not around. Right. So
it does seem for the industry, and so I suspect for Utah also, that whereas in your day, either football or basketball had to be going right, you couldn't afford to have them both down at the same time.
Absolutely.
Very few schools had them both up, so you could always kind of explain one away.
Yeah.
Be good at one and have a good plan and be making progress at the other.
Yeah.
And if you're at Alabama, it's probably better to be football, and if you're Duke, it better be basketball, right? So it just depends on the school. But now, football is so important. I think to PK's point, they are joined at the hip.
Yeah.
Probably because he's been there a long time.
Sure.
As AD, and they really need to have success. And we all feel like realignment's coming, and you've got to have success in football for that. Plus, he just paid a legend to go away. So now, back to what you said about Mack and Urban, if you make the longtime guy go away, the next guy better have success. But the same question, the landscape is constantly changing underneath everybody's feet. In the pros, you can explain it away if you're on the bubble, right? Hey, we got the 8th best record, but we got the 24th best payroll in a 30-team league, right?
Right.
So the coach is overachieving versus the budget. There are other issues. In colleges, those numbers aren't as public. I don't know if you get to explain it away the same way, although it's a similar problem in the pros. If a baseball team has the 24th biggest payroll, just get to the playoffs. We don't expect you to win the World Series. Sneak into a wild card. Get over 500.
I think that's the card that wins the game is the money is going to give coaches a little bit of a realistic reason why they don't have the same players that other teams have.
If they have less money, and everyone knows it.
And even Utah, they may have the most money, but nobody's going to believe them because guys down the street are always going to have more money. That's what our fans are going to be thinking,
right?
No matter what.
BYU and Texas Tech, if those are your losses, you can explain those away because the perception, whether maybe it's reality, maybe it's not, but the perception is they have more cash.
Yeah, you can't explain away losing to BYU.
Right.
Even if they have a lot more money and whatever, because
it's the rivalry.
Thanks to Ronnie and all those people, at one point we were 2-20, and then all of a sudden we became very competitive in some ways, maybe even better, and that'll help your ratings.
Well, you did,
I said that.
Well, no. You win 9 in a row, you dominated.
Yeah.
So, it speaks for itself.
Back to your question, and boy, if this is read as me sitting in the chair now, it's like they're always connected. My coaches hate this, but I summarize something. But they're always connected. That's the way it is, and you got to win. We always laugh about it, and I learned this the hard way that it really doesn't matter if you keep your budget as long as you win in football. No AD gets fired for winning in football and being over budget. They may use that excuse, but if you lose in football and you're under budget, nobody cares. You lose your job.
Yeah.
So that's a scary thing for an AD now. It's almost, maybe that's what you're saying is, in every campus in the country, how your football coach does after you hired the person, that's all that matters. Everywhere in the country.
Do you see the Utah football program continuing to grow to where when and if there's expansion that they move on into the Big Ten?
They're a model school for it, just like they were with the Pac-12. And I think they'll be in the top part of the league all the time, and that'll help them be attractive if somebody's going to expand. I would not want to get into the definitely or not, but they'll drop my alma mater Rutgers and there'll be room. What the heck? No, but I think Utah does bring a market that they don't have, a time zone too. That's really
time zone, for sure.
Time zone's really important, and you have to know who you are. So you're playing Michigan against Utah, Michigan's going to be the one that brings the eyeballs, but at least the state of Utah is going to be packed watching it.
Of course.
So, I think Utah continues to be in the top 3 or 4 of the league. I see that realistically. And then they'll be an attractive place. Because if they want to, the Big Ten wants to destroy the Big 12, which, I can't imagine them wanting to do that, or the ACC, they'll just take the best teams. And I can see us being the best team with a great institution.
You told me a long time ago, we were in your office talking, and you're probably 15 to 20 years into your job at this point.
Yeah.
You hadn't gone to the Pac-12 yet.
Okay.
And the Mountain West was getting better. Mm-hmm. Utah and BYU and TCU, you could just see the momentum, right? It was just obvious.
Yes.
And you're like, we just got to keep getting good. They are going to devour their own. I remember you saying that, and you said it so definitively.
Yeah.
And sure enough, the Power 6 becomes the Power 5, becomes the Power 4. The Big East and the Pac-12 are gone. And now we have 2 leagues pulling away. They didn't kill the Big 12, but, man, taking Texas and Oklahoma out of it, the SEC, that was something. And it feels like it's coming for the ACC as soon as the contracts allow it. It's going to happen there. We got a Big 2. And there seems to be this assumption we're going to stop at a Big 2. And I personally don't understand it because I go back to what you said. It's this innate thing built into sports. It's incredibly predictable. You called it decades ago. Why won't one of these 2 big leagues try to damage the other one? Especially because, as we talked earlier, you got 2 networks that wouldn't mind getting the upper hand on the other one who are funding all of this. Why not? Why doesn't the Big Ten raid the SEC for Florida and Georgia, or Texas and LSU, Tennessee and, I don't know, somebody else, maybe Bama?
Your question is a good one, and why wouldn't they?
Because they will, and the way to get around the NCAA is we'll have our conference guidelines, we'll have our own conference tournament, we'll control all the money, we'll make our own conference rules. The NCAA can exist, and we can still have our water polo and volleyball and soccer playoffs and baseball and softball and whatever. But now it's all in-house in the Big Ten. And at that point, is the Big Ten 32 teams, and it just becomes the NFL of college football.
Yeah, I think that they eat their young is the other thing. I kind of said it.
Yeah.
And, when we were in the Mountain West, we always felt like, hey, if Utah can be at the top part there and we become a pain in the butt, the Mountain West, they'll just take some people and we could be the guys dressed up and ready to go. So that was the theory then, and it's probably the theory now. I'm wondering if they just start to streamline it and let people go. Yeah. I just wish we'd take football and make it its own operation. And everybody else come home is what I used to say. Yeah. Let the baseball team stay in the West Coast, do that. But football's its own entity. It's its own entity on campus. It's its own entity. It's just not the same sport as anybody else. Make their own rules, have their own thing, have it be separate, And then they may eat their young then. I can see what you said. Why wouldn't Ohio State, A, want to take Tennessee, and B, maybe have somebody leave? And just keep making their place better and better and better. I don't think it's unreasonable, that's for sure. I think it's accurate.
The leave part, though?
Excuse me?
The leave part, you think that's reasonable?
Well, I think
basically you're getting kicked out.
You're talking about football leaving the athletic department?
You're talking about teams, right?
Yeah,
teams, that's what I'm talking about. But, because Ohio State's going to look at another school in the Big Ten and say, wait a minute, they're getting the same money as us?
That makes sense.
So what they're going to do is either eliminate people or easier say, hey, we want a bigger piece of the pie. And that makes a division in that league more and more and more. And in a certain way, it's not bad to have 2 divisions if you're in the top one, because then you got 3 or 4 teams you can beat, still have 10 wins. But if all of a sudden, who thought maybe Oklahoma's not going to be one of the major schools in the country, or Nebraska? Who would have thought that?
Yeah, Nebraska's fall is incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible. Incredible. I never would have thought Utah plays Nebraska and we're expected to win.
Which is what it was in Vegas last year.
It used to be 60-12 is when I started.
Right.
And we'd go home with money. We'd go home with money and lose.
You'd write a check and apologize to Frank Dolce. Frank, you're going to get beat up today.
And I know that's part of the plan was one of the first things we did is got rid of those money games.
Right,
Get rid of the money games, play an easier team, get some wins, have people healthier because we weren't as deep as BYU, and at the end of the year have better chance because we have better players. We didn't have our third-team players.
Right.
I'm sorry, guys, that we're on the third team. I apologize. I hope you're not listening.
They were great when they became first teamers. It was just as freshmen. They couldn't.
Right. Yeah,
that could be it, though.
Yeah, it was partly.
Yeah,
they're not ready.
They develop players well.
Let's take a break and do one more segment. Jake's giving me the evil eye in there. Look, he's looking at the clock. We're just blowing through stop signs. DJ and PK with Chris Hill in studio. Stay with us.
Turn it up. Let's go. It's a new era for sports radio in Utah. This is the all-new KSL Sports Zone. As always, DJ and PK kick off your mornings from 6 to 10. Then introducing the newest addition to the KSL Sports Zone. The coach, Tim Lacombe, joins Scotty G every day from 10 to 2. And as you wrap up your day, Jake Scott and Ben Anderson are there with the best sports talk in Utah from 2 to 6. Live and local, all day, every day. Your home for the best sports radio in Utah is live, on air, online, and on the KSL Sports app. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.
Shop the Sherwin-Williams Memorial Day sale and get 30% off paints and stains May 15th through the 28th. Whether you're refreshing your interior or exterior, we've got the colors to bring your vision to life. And with delivery, getting everything to your door is easier than ever. Shop online to have it delivered or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details. Delivery available on qualifying orders.
DJ and PK brought to you in part by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary. Call them at 1-855-TRAJAN1 or visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. Chris Hill in studio. You got a book. The website?
ChrisHillStories.com. Easy to remember, I hope.
31 years of memories, 31 years in the front row.
Right.
Crazy stories. That was a good one about David Falk earlier. As you said, David Falk's ego on full display. Did you tell the story about the Sugar Bowl in Alabama? You told me a story about you were in the lobby. The Sugar Bowl people take you to dinner. They take Alabama to dinner one night and then Utah the next night.
Yeah,
it's like the last little shred of collegiality left in big time pro college sports, and they're waiting for you in the lobby. And like, when do your people get here? I'm like, this is everybody. And they're like, what?
Yeah, they had the night before they had Alabama administrative staff, and we used to tease in our place that we carried our own bags, and I didn't have an assistant to an assistant. And I got to tell you, Glenn Tuckett's story is not in the book. If I can remember, you tell me. But we're there, and they're going, "Where's your squad?" And we're like, where's your staff? We go, well, this is it. So I think they lost a lot of money on putting that into it. And but Glenn Tuckett told me at Alabama, he was there for 2 years as kind of an interim guy. I think So we were playing in the gymnastics championship at Alabama, and he showed me through everything and go by some really big office, and it's neat, nobody's there. And I said, "Who works there?" And he goes, "Oh, so-and-so." And I go, "What's he do?" He goes, "I don't know. He's just a friend of Coach Stallings. They just hired him." And I said, "This guy's not making $45,000. But I'll never forget walking down that hallway and look. And I can't sing and dance, but I can remember stories. But I go there and I'm going, just a friend of Stallings.
Yeah.
Paid him a big salary with his own nice office. So Alabama's staff, it was hysterical. They kept waiting for people to come.
We're here.
But yet that's where we are now with these staffs. That's what's been impressive to see BYU and Utah come of age in a sense, because their staffs, football-wise, it used to be Alabama who had these, what did they call them? Analysts. And now a guy like Gary Anderson is behind the scenes, but yet doing a lot to help the team win, and isn't interested in getting any publicity because been there, done that. And Utah expanding their staff and have those types And essentially, that's what you have to do to stay competitive. That's the form of the arms race that seems to have taken over versus back when it was all about the facilities.
Yeah, I know. You go down and look from the press box down, you see more guys with golf shirts that look alike than you can ever imagine.
Right.
Yeah.
And some of it's useful, some of it's not. But you're sitting in a position, well, if I call it the bag of crap theories. They got a bag of crap, so we got a bag of crap. I'll use that word. So why don't we get 2 bags of crap and then we can beat them? But you're kind of stuck now. When we were in the Mountain West, we could kind of say, we can't have that many guys. And nobody in the community would say, oh, Chris, you got to, Yeah. But once we got there, and I remember we were in the Mountain West, they said, well, Alabama does this. And I said, we're not Alabama. I mean, well, if I expected you to beat Alabama, then we can have that guy. Well, damn it, Kyle went ahead and beat Alabama. And then we needed that guy.
He did.
Hilarious.
I was there.
I think he's going to go 10-2, maybe better. I don't know about beating Indiana and Oregon. We'll see. I think they can beat Ohio State, and I think they can beat Oklahoma. When I say Kyle's going to go 10-2 his first year at Michigan, what's your first reaction?
I agree. I think that's who they are. I mean, I can't imagine him. We had talent at Utah, but I can't imagine him not having more talent at Michigan. And he can, like I used the expression, Rick, he can coach them up, and they're not going to lose players because they can keep paying them. So I look down the schedule, too, as you just mentioned, and I don't know who's on their schedule, but, there's no reason why they can't. Now, I don't want to put pressure on Kyle, God bless him, but the reality is...
I didn't say 11-1 or 12-0. I'll leave the door open to it.
Yeah,
but I'm not
10-2. 10-2 is in your first year at Ohio State. I wouldn't think that's a problem.
Well, that gets you in the playoff.
Boy, that's easy to say now. That's not a problem. What the heck,
He's probably not putting pressure on me. You just said I was going to beat Ohio State. You fool.
You got to go 10-2, coach. Don't
it was a
me.
ballyhooed hire. It was an unbelievable circumstance, turn of events, and to get a coach of that level of accomplishment, it just doesn't happen every day.
No, I don't think so. And I think, Kyle had this, I'm only from Utah, I'm this, I'm that. Mm-hmm. I'm getting back to the same thing. He's going to get players, whether he's from the Midwest or California, whatever. And then I think they'll win. And it's Michigan. Let's be honest, it's Michigan.
Well, you told me once about him that the thing people don't appreciate, because he's got the football tough guy persona, is you said he's smart.
Oh.
And he's always looking for just that little bit of an edge, and then find another little bit of an edge. You start adding them up, and that's why they beat Alabama and a handful of other big-time
you're bringing
wins.
back really memories for me because, each coach was different. And part of my deal was, are they going to adapt to me or am I going to adapt to them? Mm-hmm. Not in terms of giving away things, but, so Kyle comes in the office, I got to be prepared. I got to know all the research. I got to know if I say one thing, if I say it's going to happen, 3 months from now, he'll be knocking on the door saying, did it happen? Yeah. And I'd go into a meeting and, man, I better be prepared. Where some people is a little more give and take and, back and forth and whatever. But with Kyle, it was like, boom. And so I think he's a really, really smart guy. And that's where he can figure out stuff. We went to Pac-12. He was one of the few coaches that weren't nervous. He said, bring it on. And I'm sure he's going to feel the same way at Michigan. Just bring it on, and I'll be ready.
Yeah, I can tell you once they clinched the first Rose Bowl, I don't want to use the word demands, but he had a level of expectations now, I guess, that were something that you could say he demanded of the program. We were done with this little program out in the middle of nowhere that overachieved. And he was going to hold people accountable to maintain. His point in conversation was, now we've stepped up and we're not going back. Well, we got to go more.
Well, that's exactly. When we got invited to Pac-12, I said, guys, I understand it's a jump, but we are not afraid of high expectations. We can't be afraid of that. We got to keep that there. And, Kyle bought in, and every coach – Kyle, maybe you know him better, so it's more intense there, but every coach wants more and more and more, not only in support, but also in winning. And we decided it's not arrogant, but we weren't going to be afraid of high expectations. I mean, it's not all about me, but, X number of years ago, nobody thought we'd be beating BYU, but people thought I was crazy thinking we could do that. It was like when we even got started, we said, okay, we need to win at least 1 in 5 years. Against BYU. That was like a goal.
Which is only 20% out of 10.
And then we said, well, no, forget that one. That's off the table.
Right. And I think that for the U of U, I see no reason why not.
No.
Because I think it has so much to offer.
I've always felt that way. From day one, I looked and I said, great university, great city, attractive for coaches. They know they can win there. There's a lot of things that added up. And to keep people, that's the key thing, is to keep a Kyle for more than 5 years. And Rick, too.
But I want to ask you what we asked Ryan Smith when we had him on the air. The Jazz are here, and we know they're pulling a lot of money out in this, sports business world. Now the Mammoth are here. And, man, talk about catching a wave and riding a wave, right?
Oh,
you see all the gear around town, too. The arena's full.
Yeah.
And now we got Major League Baseball. Is it coming? It sure sounds like it is. I mean, it's not done until it's done.
Right.
But it sounds probable.
Yeah.
And now you're going to put the University of Utah on top of that, and everybody's got to get the money out of the local community. Is there that much money in the local community?
Well, I don't think so. I don't see us, the city growing like crazy, or the state. I mean, everybody, it's growing, but, boy, that's a lot of money. And we don't have a lot of corporate national companies here.
No, the tech money has helped fill that gap.
Yeah.
But to what degree? I mean, it's filled it as the Mammoth have come into town, but maybe the Utes don't have the money they wish they did right now.
Right.
And baseball, that's just one more straw into the exact same drink.
Yeah. And I think that, Utah did a good job, like with their baseball, getting advertising there and using it more strategically. And, you're only as ethical as you can afford to be, was the expression. And maybe all of a sudden you're going to have like hockey uniforms, soccer uniforms with all kinds of names on you,
right?
And name buildings after companies and do all that stuff.
Will it be soccer with one brand, or will it be NASCAR with 30 brands?
Right, yeah. Right. And I but get back to your basic point. I'm concerned that there's not enough money to go around, and the impact, like the Mammoth, man, I went to one of those games and it's happening, and they're going to bring money out of the community in a big way. I mean, they're the major leagues. They're not, like they were out at the Maverick Center.
Yeah.
So I mean, to answer your question, yes, there's a lot of people at the trough trying to get money, and I don't know if there's enough money.
Are there a lot of Ute alumni around the country that could be tapped into? Because that's where it's different than pro sports. Pro sports gets their network TV money, and they get their network or whatever their whole league, does as far as sponsorships. But then they're basically local. And we are seeing schools, your billionaire company. I mean, Indiana had Mark Cuban go off to Texas, and now he's writing checks back in Indiana. So it's not like you're limited to 40 miles from campus.
No, you're not. But I mentioned our university many times. But if you're living in L.A. and you want to help the Utes, but at the same time the development office is talking about you donate money to cure cancer at the Huntsman Center, getting a quarterback versus working on cancer. So people that don't go to the games, like people throughout the state or throughout the country, they love the Utes or whatever, but they're not going to give their biggest dollar to the athletic department. And I couldn't agree with that. When Huntsman would give us money and 20 times as much to the cancer, I said, thank you for letting us be part of your charitable giving.
Right.
And universities, just like anybody else, donors, there's so many areas, engineering where people graduated, where they're here, where they're there.
Yeah.
So I think the University of Utah, to answer your question, they'll get money from around the state, but around the country, but they'll get more money to the rest of the university, which they should.
Yeah, we need to throw cancer in there.
Yeah. Okay, we need a quarterback or cancer, research. I mean,
I think we're at the point now where you would be hard pressed to find somebody who didn't know multiple people who went to the Huntsman Cancer Institute and who probably have been there either as a patient or driving the patient there.
We've
both done that, and we're not alone. Having been there recently, That place is so busy. Watching the cars come and go, the valet parking, the valets running back and forth as people just keep showing up.
Yeah, well, one of my favorite guys to work with was Larry Kostoyak, and we went up to the Huntsman's Cancer when they had another expansion, and we looked at each other and said, one guy, it's like Eccles. What would we be without the Eccles family at the University of Utah? But we go up there and say, wow, this guy decided to do this.
Yeah.
God, are we proud that he likes us?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not that about the money. It just was kind of fun to be able to say, hey, these major contributors have a little like with Utah. It's kind of their little, it's like people give money to the Cancer Center, then they give to the symphony.
A little fun money.
Yeah, a little bit of their
They do the
stuff.
real work up on the hill. Yeah,
they have passion in everywhere, but it gives them, John loved basketball. Loved it.
Oh, yeah, big time. Absolutely.
Yes, he did.
Yep.
I was there.
Yeah.
He introduced himself to me one time. I said, yeah, I know who you are.
That was a really fun part of the job, is getting to know so many. I told people that my job was really strange, because there's only like 50 good ones in the country that are that way. But, I dealt with the Huntsman's of the World Medical Center, people downtown, staff, on-campus professors. I mean, it was so nice to have all those groups, and sometimes it was a pain too. But getting to know people like that, and
not to mention the media,
and the media too. You're right. And
you wouldn't know us if you
the
did
media.
it now.
The media was one of the disappointments for me. As you know, I'm so comfortable with you guys now that I can say what I want. Yeah. But I said, here's the deal. I'm from New Jersey. I'm competitive. Arguing is a family sport. Okay, you argue all night long. You get up in the morning and say, "Oh, that was fun last night." So with the media, even if not that in 31 years you were ever wrong, ever. I say, man, that's wrong. I want to fight that guy about it. I want to do it. I'm competitive and I want to argue. No, the AD has just got thin skin.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand it. I can't believe how. You guys had a card you could play that I couldn't be myself.
So did you figure that out on your own, or did Liz Abel, your longtime sports information director, who had ultimate, assistant athletic director titles and all that, but did she explain it to you and tell you this is how it is?
Yeah, she would stop me from being myself.
Yeah.
She was the best. And so you're right. I mean, she'd sit there and say, I almost wanted to rip some guy's lips off that was in the media one time. Big time. But what happened is,
I bet I can guess who.
Yeah, but for me, it got to the point like, hey, that's how it is. It didn't bother me. Yeah. You guys knew I had to be vanilla when I spoke, and you guys know you had to ask the question, who are you looking at, Chris? Well, I'm not going to tell you that. And my wife used to say, how'd it go on the radio? I'd say, oh, great. You did it again. You sounded like you were doing something, but you never said anything. That's good.
Yeah, but I think one of your strong points is that you could handle conflict. I mean, we had conflict. You and I had conflict.
Oh, yeah.
But yet I never felt like it was personal against me.
No,
and the next time around, you could see me, we could talk, and here we are 30 years later, and we have a relationship, and there were some hard times, but it's just part of the job. And if I felt if I'm not creating conflict, I'm probably not asking the right questions.
Right, absolutely.
And it's part of the gig. But here we are 30 years later, and if people ask me about Chris Hill, I say, yeah, I like the guy. I liked him then. I like him now.
Well, that's how I feel about It's a two-way street. I know you got a job to do. I got a job to do.
And you knew that.
You have to. Liz would get together and say, Chris, they're going to ask this question and this question.
Yep.
Don't be upset. And I did that once with Urban. I said, Urban, it's the second game of the year. Notre Dame wants you, blah, blah, blah. And he said, I said, Urban, let me explain something to you. It's kids and dogs. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, you just do this. I love my team. This is how it is. I can't think of anything else but Morgan Scally and this guy and that guy. Right. And we'd have those kind of discussions. Not that we'd always get away with it, but it's just I knew what you had to do. You knew what I had. And that's just the way it is. It's like I said, I got up in the morning and we'd argue all night long, get up the next day, say, that was fun. And so you don't think about that. I never felt that way. Hardly ever.
All right, one final segment. Stay with us, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good night's sleep.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.
DJ PK, Chris Hill in studio. We were only going to do an hour. We've done an hour and a half because there's just too many stories. For people who want the book, give them the website one more time. Some people just join us.
Yeah, got a book coming out that's been several years in the making. It'll be up on Amazon a little bit and other places, but it's chrishillstories.com, 31 years in the front row. I didn't beat anybody up. It's not some juicy stories like that. It's just, I think it's fun or inside kind of, not gossip, but how did that happen, or what happened here, or what was funny? And I threw a chapter in about me growing up because Jersey changed my life, and then I told the story about me being in Utah at 23. Paint at bar tile was my first job because I left Duke without a job, and I had 7 jobs in 13 years and 1 in 31. So I thought I had to explain that part of my Utah life before I became the AD. But again, if anybody sees this as an ego thing, I'm really going to be disappointed. My old man would come out of his grave and beat me. Okay, so it's about stories like that. Pac-12, Majerus 2 chapters, Urban, Kyle. Along the way, and one thing, I'll be real quick, we had this thing called Along the Way, which is just little vignettes of short stories with student athletes and with presidents that I had and, things I screwed up here and there and cost the university money when Urban thought I was leaving and we had a buyout. And he said, you got to use my buyout. I said, okay. Then I stayed and he left. And the buyout was nothing. The guy from Florida, he called me up and said, Chris, that's the cheapest thing we got. Could you want me? I'll write a personal check if that's how it is. Anyway, so that's part of it. And I appreciate you letting me talk about it. It's out now, but I really consider it out, in a couple weeks when Amazon, everybody gets it. And then we're going to do a little book thing at the King's English and stuff. But I don't want this to be a sales pitch because I'm no way I'm going to make money. No way, and I'm not interested in that. I mean it.
But hardcore Ute fans who wonder about conference realignment stories and interesting personalities, coaches they heard about forever.
Yeah.
And
I hope the people that are interested, it's fun.
Yeah.
And nobody gets a gold star for buying one. I'm not giving strokes on a golf course. If one of my buddies buys a book, they can the heck with it.
Chris, we appreciate you coming in. Thanks for joining us this morning. We're all done. Scotty G and the coach, Tim Lacombe, are coming up next. Stay with us.
Ready or not, summer is coming, and Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance is on now. Right now through May 25th, get up to 70% off everything home at Wayfair. Plus, score amazing doorbuster deals all sale long and surprise flash deals on Memorial Day. We're talking thousands of products at every style and budget. Now is the time to save big on must-haves for your patio, backyard, and beyond. These savings won't last, so don't wait. Shop Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance now through May 25th.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.